I'm Miss Krissy from the Harris County Public Library System and Lone Star College Sci-Fair. Today we're going to be doing some crayon art. What you're going to need are some crayons, no wrappers, a hairdryer, and some sort of surface to do your art on. There's a variety of things that you can use. The way that the crayon moves is different based on the surface that you use. For example, I have some cardboard that I used the same three colors for the three examples I'm going to give you. The cardboard has a rougher surface, and so when you use the crayon on it, you have a lot more control. So you see there are very few splatters on it, and you move the crayon as it melts around. You can also use just plain copy paper, and that's what this is. What I like about this is that if you notice all around the edges, you'll see almost a translucent halo effect. I happen to really like it. I think it's kind of cool. So that it's something that most people have around. Any kind of paper would probably work. But one of my favorite and most fun, it has a nice waxy surface. So when you put the crayon on it, it gives a really neat splatter effect. Also, it just takes a little bit of air and the crayon just flows like a river. So the colors merge really well together and they just flow. So you use your hairdryer to control the angles of where things go. And this is a cat food box. And this came from the inside of a cat food box. So you can use pretty much anything that you happen to have around. You can do things that are super easy, like this. Or much more complicated, like this. You need to protect your surface because the crayon does splatter. I put down some paper on the floor where I am setting my canvas board. The next thing we're going to need to do is heat up the crayon. Try and use the longer stick of crayons if you can, otherwise you'll need to hold on to it with something to protect your fingers because it does get hot after a while. The first part requires a little bit of patience because it takes a minute or so for the crayon to heat up and the wax to melt. If you're using the small crayons, it goes a little faster. If you're using the big jumbo crayons, it takes a lot longer for it to heat up. So I like to put the crayon tip on the surface, and that partially lets me know when it's melted, and it also lets me have a little bit more control over what's going on in my picture, because that's important to me. So you can see that the crayon is already melting a lot, so it just glides across the surface. Use your hair dryer to point the direction of where you want the wax to move. If you lift the crayon up into the air, that's when it starts to give the little splatter droplets. But use the hair dryer to control the direction of where everything is going. I'm using the same three colors I did in the examples, just so that you can kind of see how everything works. So this would be the fourth kind of surface that we look at. You'll notice that the corner where I held the hairdryer the longest is a little bit lighter than everything else. That's because the heat and air will continue to push the color forward. So if you want to have one section a little lighter than the others, you just keep the hairdryer in that spot and it pushes the color away a little bit. When you do your second color, you can choose to do it right on top of the first color. That will get the blending of colors pretty nice. If you want it to have a bolder contrast, then you want to do that further away from the rest of the color. I'm going to do a little bit of both. So I will start in the light corner that I created with the hairdryer to start with, and that's where I'm going to apply the light yellow color. Don't forget, the direction that you are holding the hairdryer is what's going to control the crayon. It does start to get messy, so please remember to protect your surfaces and protect your fingers, because when you hold it for a long time with the heat on, it definitely starts to get really warm. If you think that you can comfortably use gloves, you can try that. If you want to try using something to hold a crayon with, you can try that too. But you can see how the yellow and the orange colors sort of mixed together and blended really nicely. I could have kept them completely separate, like the easy painting that I showed you earlier, but in this one I kind of want to mix the colors. I would recommend that your first attempt at doing melted crayon art, that you just sort of experiment with colors, experiment with how it works with the hairdryer, how to control the flow of the crayon, experiment with how high you can hold the crayon in the air and how much it splatters. Touch the tip of the crayon to your canvas or your paper, so that you can see how smoothly that it goes across. So just experiment and have fun with it. For this particular piece, I'm not going to completely cover it in crayon, because I do like there to be a little bit of white space left. And this is our finished project. One thing that's really great about the melted crayon art is that it doesn't take very long for it to dry. Acrylic paints, you can't touch it for a while. Oil paints, you can't touch it for a long while. One thing to be careful of is keeping them in a hot place, because it is wax and it will melt. But it also means that you can add things later. I chose to use the same three colors, yellow, orange, and red, so that you could see what it looked like with the very same crayons but on different mediums. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you give it a try. Feel free to send pictures of what you did. Bye.